Continuing now the second part of this interview with Rabbi Eliezer Goldschmidt about his life history from 1930 in Hamburg, living through the terrible times of Kristallnacht and etc., and then coming to America. Please continue.
Anyway, as a result of, so to speak, all of these difficulties, as I said, what I said before concerning my uncle, he was active, so to speak, in helping Jews till the very end.
And your wife said that he was a German. He had been in the German army before that.
In the First World War.
In the First World War, and he was very helpful to Jewish people in the army.
In the First World War, they were not very enthused. He was able to be transferred to where they exchanged prisoners of war. So he wasn't in the active and in the opposite. They were not. My grandfather was very much against the idea of a war than the First World War. He said if the Malochim want to play on the Moorweiden, they should these Malochim were cousins, the German and the Russian, and they were all cousins. They were all Kaisers. They were all cousins. They were all grandchildren of the what was her name, Victoria, the Queen of England.
Anyway, continue, please.
Anyway,
let's go now to the Holocaust time and move on.
I don't quite understand.
Let's move on to when how you guys left.
Yeah.
Germany.
Okay. Since the business, this was already after the Kristallnacht, and before the Kristallnacht, I would say my parents had come to the conclusions, I have to get out of Europe. They thought in Europe you don't get out of the thing. It was only then that my parents in August 38, before the Kristallnacht, that they registered for the American consulate to get on the quota.
Yes.
To be able to get to America.
Yes.
Never before, but my parents had not intended to go to America.
Right.
But when it turned out that the Dutch didn't let us in, saved us out. Otherwise, we would have settled down in Holland, where everybody was sent to. My grandfather, later having been in Holland as well, he was sent to Sobibor by the Germans. Then we had a temporary, in January 39, we had a temporary permission to get to Holland. We were in Holland for time to wait, so to speak, till our term came on at the consulate, the American consulate, and we finally got the visa in end of November 38. The end of November 39, and we were able to sail to go with a ship, Dutch ship, in January 40. In January 40, when England was already at war between England and Germany, and we got to America in February 40, which was 3 months before the Germans invaded Holland, and anybody who didn't get out before couldn't get out anymore.
Right. So once the war broke out in 39 in Poland, was there a difference in the atmosphere and behavior in Hamburg to 38? Well, no, what I'm asking is, was there a noticeable difference of the level of everything by the Germans from September 39 compared to November 38 in Hamburg.
Well, you're asking of the German, so to speak, the non-Jewish world and the German?
No, the Nazis, how they treated Jews.
In Hamburg, it was, and Hamburg itself was comparatively
Quiet.
quiet. That was a certain, I would say it had to do possibly with Hamburg being a port city and always had other people in it, unlike various smaller German towns, which was a purely, so to speak, either you were 100% for or 100% against. Probably it had an effect, but after all, you are asking where I'm now speaking in retrospect, because after all, at the time I was, how old was I?
Right.
To judge that exactly what was. I think that's
Okay.
I can only judge, so to speak, what my personal experiences.
I understand. Okay, please continue now with from now you came to America. Where did you come, and tell us about that, please.
We came to America obviously since it was actually a process of leaving. We came to America
In February of 1940,
only-
you came to Ellis Island.
No, we had proper visas.
So where did you come?
We came to Manhattan. We
Okay.
came to America. Some Jewish organization accepted us.
Which
put
the
us up.
Hayas?
I suppose so.
Okay.
Yes, and we put up at some hotel until we could find this other place.
Right.
Obviously, we were due to the fact that they took us so long and everything was taken from us. First the Germans, and then on the way couldn't take us. We came with our suitcases, nothing else, nothing else. Nothing else. Also, no money or no nothing.
And this is and who came? Your parents and your
My parents
and your two siblings and yourself.
My parents with three children.
Children.
Yes. Then we stayed in a rooming house in something like 142nd Street or something like that.
In Harlem.
In
Harlem.
Hamburg. In New York.
In New York, in Harlem.
In Manhattan.
Manhattan, okay.
Yes. Manhattan. I was sent at the time to the school of Rabbi Yeshivat Yaakov Yosef.
Right, RJJ.
RJJ. RJJ.
It was in the East Side, right?
East Side, Lower East Side.
So that's from 142nd Street all the way down. How'd you go? By bus?
No, subways at the time.
Subway. Okay.
By that time, I was already 10.
Yeah.
I came to America exactly a day after I became 10.
Oh. Anyway, you came to the yeshiva and?
Yeshivot, there were either Yiddish or mostly Yiddish or English. And I would say at the time, the Jewish people did not grasp what was going on in Europe. And the result was I was a refugee, that's all. And a refugee is a nudnik. And a refugee who couldn't speak properly.
Right.
And tried to give me a thing of Yiddish. And there was no, it didn't work. I didn't pick up the Yiddish as such.
Right.
It was, I did pick up actually the English.
Okay.
And I can't tell you the reason, but it's so. Maybe for the future, what I could get afterwards with my wife. But anyway, so my parents we looked around what to do, and where to live, where to bring up the children, and had contact with some people who they knew from Hamburg and who lived in Boro Park, by the name of Bystritsky.
Oh my gosh. The
Yes.
Chabad, the Boyaner Hasidim.
But
They were Hasidim, Bystritsky. I know, but they came
Some
from
of them.
some of them, but they came from Hamburg. Yeah.
they came from Hamburg.
Right, sure.
And my parents had been friendly with them in Hamburg.
Did you know he moved here, labeled Bystritsky?
That's one of the sons.
Yeah,
I was friendly there with his brother.
with his brother. Okay.
Yeah, Alex.
Alex, go ahead.
Yeah. And
So the Bystritskys lived in Boro Park.
yes, and they suggested that we move to some place in Boro Park. Of course, it was a very small apartment, someplace right not in the center where Bystritsky lived, but where we could be on 44th Street at the time. And
44th or between 13th and 14th. That's what you're talking about?
between 14th and 15th and 44th Street
Okay.
at the time. Anyway, and to just show you the lack of understanding, we're talking about 40. We're talking about
In 1940.
40. Summer and winter of 40.
Right. No, not winter. Winter of 40, not 41?
No,
Because you
no.
came in February. You came in
Yeah,
February of 40.
40.
So you think about
The
the
next
winter?
month.
Yeah.
The month.
Yeah, okay, anyway, yeah.
And to just show you, and now we were three boys, and three boys make a noise. We were on the top floor there, and running down the stairs, and one of the absolutely normal, today I would say normal and Yiddish couple was living below us.
Okay.
And one of the times when we were going down the stairs, making a lot of noise, she more or less said, "You can go back to Hitler," or something. At the time, the Jews did not realize what was doing. And I'm not saying it to her detriment.
Right,
I'm
right.
saying it how was the
mentality of the Jews in America at the time.
did not know and did not grasp what was going on.
Right. I understand. Continue, please.
And so we stayed there.
And then you didn't, once you told me that you left Yaakov Yosef.
Yes.
When you moved to Boroburg, you didn't go to Yaakov Yosef anymore. Right.
No, we went
To public school.
We went to public school
In Boro Park?
in Boro Park on 14th Avenue.
Right.
I went to a Talmud Torah.
At the Talmud Torah was at the
43rd Street, the
Right.
Talmud Torah.
Achzike.
But obviously, and my parents again didn't have any incomes. The income which they did accomplish to a seek was that my mother went to scrub floors.
She was a cleaner, a house cleaner.
Otherwise, it was in any place, because that was the possibility to some other. Again, I, as a child, I must say I was spoiled by my parents. The food was there, and the thing was there.
Right, right.
So that was it, and the atmosphere was, and I picked up as usual. I picked up everything, and in school it was simple for me. And
Do you remember Dr. Schmidlein?
no,
There was a German doctor who was very big on getting women to go to the mikveh. He was a doctor. You sure? I'm not pronouncing his name. Some German doctor. He lived on 12th Avenue. He lived on 45th between 12th and 13th. Schmidlein.
I
No,
don't
no.
know.
Okay.
I don't know if,
Tell me.
that was his activities again as a.
You were a young boy. I understand. I understand.
I was.
Well, he lived into the 50s. I just was wondering if you knew. Anyway, tell me a little bit about the culture besides what you said in Borough Park from 1940 to 1951. Because I live in Borough Park, and Borough Park today is 500,000 Jews.
Park was completely different. There were the shuls. Don't forget the Sephardic shul, which was later. We moved in 42. We moved from 44th Street to 45th Street, which was the apartment on 45th Street was right across the street from the
Sephardic shul.
And the Sephardic shul has a history, if you may know or not know, has a history of having had minyonim on Shabbat morning early in order that the people could go to work.
I am aware of it. That's why the shul on 13th and 53rd broke away, and they called themselves Shomerei Shabbos.
I see. I did not know that.
Absolutely, that's what happened.
I did not know.
And that's why they're the shul that has the most minyanim in the world. They have minyanim from Ma'ariv to 4 or 5 in the morning. I've seen it with my eyes.
It's a bit late.
But no, I'm just saying that
okay.
They have a bracha.
Okay.
Anyway, go ahead.
Anyway, there we were.
Was there a kosher bakery? Was there a kosher butcher? What was there in the 1942, 43, 44?
The meat. Was again the association of Bistritsky. There were several other German people there, and after all, at the time, a store selling kosher meat, which was written Basar Kasher,
yes,
could not be relied upon. And therefore, these Jews who were Orthodox in Germany knew no kunzim, so to speak. And they saw to it that some butcher, which was under the hashgacha of Rav Breuer in the Bronx, sent meat once a week to Boro Park. And that butcher, as a matter of fact, received from us also a key to our apartment that he could come in and put it into the refrigerator.
Wow.
That was his setup at the time, and so we had meat, which was at the time there was
A bakery.
There was no bakery at the time. Bread, I think there was certain bread which one could purchase, which was kind of, that's what was the situation.
Do you remember Rabbi Simpson?
No.
The Lubavitcher Rav in Borough Park on 46th Street between 15th and 16th. Eliyahu Simpson. No recollection.
No.
Rabbi Ushpal. No, him you wouldn't know.
When they were there.
No, Rabbi Simpson was there from 1936, so he was there when you were there.
But, I do not know.
You didn't go to that shul. You went to Bnei Yehuda.
He went to Bnei Yehuda. I did not go. I went to my
father, yeah.
My father, and we accompanied him
to Chaim Dalfin. Chaim Dalfin is where, on 11th Avenue?
Is 52nd Street and 14th Avenue.
Right, 52nd and 14th, right, I know the shul. Did you hear anything about Rabbi Yosef Yitzchok Schneerson in Crown Heights, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe?
No.
At the time?
No.
Nothing in the 1940s?
Nothing.
Your father didn't go to any Rebbes. He wasn't a chassid.
Certainly not.
Certainly not. Why? Can you explain that? Certainly not.
Certainly not. He was
a German Jew.
He was a
Yeke.
Everything commercially exact, and that's it.
Right.
There was no.
This idea of a Rebbe, a chassid, he didn't go for that.
Yes, he was very
against it.
Pardon?
He was against the concept. He was against the whole concept of Rebbes and Chassidim.
I don't think that we had conversations in that, so to speak, arguing.
And there were no, were there, let me ask you, do you remember any Hasidim in Borough Park in the 40s? Any Hasidic Rabbanim?
And the early times, there were the big Batei Knesset, by the way, on the way from 45th Street to 52nd Street, where we went to shul on 52nd Street, there was on 49th Street Temple Emmanuel, which was conservative.
Right, it was conservative.
Yes. So, it was these shuls that were there. There were Jews there, yes, but there were also Goyim there. And 13th Avenue was in the main open on Shabbat.
13th Avenue was or was not?
Was open on Shabbat.
Yeah, well, it was,
mainly.
Yeah, it was.
It was many Jews at all stores there.
Do you remember Wallach's clothing store? Wallach's? No. And
I did not shop at the time.
Yeah. What about the shul, the temple, Bethel on 15th and 48th?
Yes. Later on.
You went to hear Moshe Kosovitsky?
I later on, when I was maybe 15, 16, something like that, I knew that Kosovitsky was traveling there, and was after we went to, don't forget, in America is the Slichot, is a festival, so to speak, Motzei Shabbat, and we.
It wasn't that way in Hamburg.
I do not know how it was in Hamburg. It was too small.
Okay.
It was certainly not my
Americanized.
Anyway, after I know that in the 15, when I was 15, 16 already, then after we went to Slichot and Shomamuno, I sometimes went on, there was a Motzei Shabbat, Sunday not working. I went to listen outside of Beit El because you had to pay to get the charts in, to get in, and listen to Kusevitsky from outside, which took time till about 2:30, 3 o'clock.
Yeah?
Yeah, at the time. That was, of course, an unusual thing, but that's much later. Anyway.
So Borough Park at the time had mostly Goyim, non-Jews, right? Italians.
Not so much Italian.
Irish.
Was more further down. All kinds of people. But there are also a lot of Jews, but a lot of Jews who, so to speak, the Shmirat Shabbat was
not important.
Not the main concern.
Right. What about Yakir Bigeleisen?
Bigeleisen, I knew.
You knew Yakir?
I don't know what his name was.
Well, the sons were more your age. Moshe and Shloime. Shloime Bigeleisen and Moshe
My mother was
Bigeleisen.
very friendly with Mrs. Bigeleisen.
That must be Yakir's wife. That was Yakir, the father.
And they helped my mother in many ways.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Later on, as a matter, well, it wasn't somebody else, but they were very friendly with them. Mm-hmm. But I kept on going to school and going on thing, and then of course came.
You went to college?
Afterwards, first came in November. In December 41 was the Pearl Harbor.
Okay, but you didn't go to the army. You were 11 years old.
Yes.
Yeah, but
the atmosphere changed. The atmosphere in America changed. America has to be noted. By the way, the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. America was furious about that because they were negotiating, and Germany declared war on America 4 days later. It's historically proven, and America afterwards only declared war against Germany because America did not want to fight Germany.
Okay.
It was
Okay, but that what does it have to do with you later on, 1947, 48? That was much earlier.
that was in 41, yes,
Yes,
41. But I want to show you the atmosphere which was current, and it had to do with the Jews.
The Jew.
The Jews again did not, so to speak, in the Second World War, time of the Second World War, I never saw as a child a pregnant woman on the street, for the simple reason that all men, the moment there was war, all men in America at the time
Went to
were
war.
drafted.
You were drafted, right?
And and the people didn't know much about what was happening in Europe.
Right.
The change.
Okay, but your brothers weren't old enough to be drafted. Your brothers.
My oldest brother was drafted in 43, then he became 18, and he served with the U.S. Navy in the Far East.
Okay.
He was later on in Okinawa.
Okinawa, right. So when you finished high school, what did you do?
I kept on going to and went to to college.
Which one?
First for a year I was in Brooklyn College, and then made the test to go into City College.
And what did you study?
Foreign trade and economics.
And you got a degree in that?
Yes.
Okay. So then, and what happened next? That you left, or your parents left in 1951? I think you said to Eretz Yisrael.
No.
Okay. Correct me, please. Correct me.
No.
Now one second. Do you remember 1948 with the
1948? The change. The moment that it became
the state of Israel,
known to what went to Europe, known to everyone, not only to few people, the Jews suddenly woke up. They woke up and they made tremendous demonstrations to see to it that the Jews can get out of Europe. I'm speaking about after. To America, to Eretz Israel, there was Jews, there were demonstrations of 1 million people.
Okay, hold on a second.